Welcome to Backstage with Kennedy. This little show will be your remedy. From Toronto, spanning across the sea. Cool people, lots of laughs. This is your favorite podcast.
Hello and welcome. My name's Kennedy from the Backstage with Kennedy podcast. Got a wicked guest today, Chachy of Round Eye. If you don't know of Round Eye, they are an awesome Shanghai, China-based band. Super. You can't put them down into one category of punk because they do it all and they do it all very well. They're very versatile. So I'm super psyched for this one. It's gonna be nice talking to Chachy. How you doing, bro?
Good, man. Ni hao. How's it going?
Doing well, man. So, before we really get started, you weren't originally born in China, right? So, why did you move out there? Was it for music or was it for just like business? Well, why'd you move out that way?
I moved out here initially for work, and I wasn't thinking on getting back into music. I was in a punk band in Florida I was born in Chicago and I lived in Florida for a lot of my life. And I was in a punk band in Orlando for the better part of 10 years, from 99 to about 2008. And there was a recession in America, couldn't find any work. I had a drummer who was in that band, I mentioned Libyan Hit Squad, and he moved to China back in 2006 and 7, and then came back, reported it to me. He told me there was incredible life there, incredible music scene. He had a great time out here, and I kind of put it in the back of my mind. I wasn't really, planning on stopping everything and moving to China. It was just one of those things like, oh yeah, I'll get to it sometime in my life. And then he passed away, and the recession hit. I couldn't find any work, and it was just nothing was really working. So I decided, fuck it, I'll just go. I didn't even know how to say hello in Mandarin at the time. And just packed everything and left. And I didn't get into music in China until about a year and a half later.
Wow, that's wild. That's really wild. So did you meet those guys, the rest of the band in China, or was that, hey, I knew you from the US from touring and all that, so let's get together and create this band?
For the most part, I met them all. They were introduced to me by Chinese friends.
That's cool.
I was looking for musicians to help me finish a project that we had recorded with Greg in a Black Flag in Florida. And it was supposed to be just a continuation of Libyan Hit Squad, just to finish the record and bookend it, right? And it ended up sounding so totally different than what the previous band. So I was like, well, this is just gonna have to be a new band. And yeah, one of the original bass player of Round Eye, I knew him from University of Central Florida. He kind of followed me out to China.
Okay, cool. So I think anybody who listens to Round Eye will really understand what I say when I say it's a very versatile sound. You have everything from like rager type punk songs to something a little more melodic and relaxed to a little bit of like a ska influence, surf influence. What are Round Eye's influences? Because it's hard to really pinpoint it. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of like old school punk in there, but I can't just say that's all your only influence.
I would say a safe way to broadly put our influences is just SST Records, like as a whole. I found the label as an entity was very diverse. It had a lot of angles to it, between like the Minutemen, Saccharine Trust, and early Soundgarden and Black Flag, right? So I mean, we're also really into Sun Ra, jazz, Blue Oyster Cult, Captain Beefheart.
Okay.
And not one of the members, nobody in this band actually has a super common board of influences. We all like very different forms of music.
I think that shows listening to it as well. Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is awesome. I was super into it, man. So you have you were working with Bill Stevenson and Mike Watt on this new album, Culture Shock Treatment. How's it working with those guys? Because obviously they are fantastic musicians and all that they've done in the past. How's it working with those guys?
It was great. I mean, I love seeing Watt every time we run into him. We got to know both of those guys through touring and bringing him out to China, actually, touring out here and then playing with Watt over in Pedro whenever we pass through America. And, you know, at first, when you first meet him, of course, you're kind of like, you know, a little starstruck, right? You're just like, oh boy. And then after a while, they're just like really like uncles to us. It's great. It's been awesome.
That's wicked. That's wicked. So, how important do you think that it is to have that versatility in your music? Like you have slow songs like Red Crimes, and then you have a little bit more like thrash type punk, like in your face kind of stuff. How important do you think that versatility is to have, opposed to being like one sound, one direction the whole time?
I mean, I think it's extremely important. I mean, we just get bored easily.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't, but all in all, though it's coming at you from a whole lot of different directions, it still kind of has its, you can still kind of tell it's us with all the recordings, like even probably just with the saxophone. I don't know. There's always an R&B bass to it. So it's a lot of Americana in there. Those are largely my influence. I really love 50s rock and roll, specifically 1955 to 1961. And that's always at the center of it. All the songs we cover are based off of that. And I mean, I think it's important for every band to, it's just naturally what comes out of us every time we get together. Since the first rehearsal, it's just what comes out of us. So we would sound pretty bad if we really focused in on one genre. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I get the idea of the album. I know that you were really wanting to put some exposure on what's going on in Hong Kong. That was a big thing for you guys. For the people who don't know about the situation, I know that this is probably a great platform to kind of explain a little bit what's going on out there for the people who don't know. What's going on in Hong Kong right now, man?
Well, okay, so the handover, Hong Kong used to be a British colony for about 100 years. And the UK formally handed over the city to the mainland of the People's Republic of China. And back about 1995, 97. And they promised autonomy for the Hong Kong autonomous state for about 50 years until the handover was completely finished. But the mainland of China reneged on that deal and started, with the ascension of Xi Jinping, they started to take away more and more liberties slowly but surely. And the real catalyst to all of this was probably the extradition bill that was just passed in Hong Kong. And that's where all the major, huge protests happened in the last year, where the extradition bill basically was if a crime was committed in Hong Kong, or a crime by Chinese standards was committed in Hong Kong, mainland China would therefore have the power to extradite that person to the mainland to face Chinese court, mainland Chinese court. And now Hong Kong has basically been usurped by the mainland. So it's happening.
That's crazy. Yeah, I saw
because Hong Kong for the longest time, for decades, has been able to operate on it's a one country, two systems, right, policy. So they had freedom of speech. They had their own judicial system. They had their own courts. They could handle their own affairs. Now that's all changing. Now their freedom of speech is it's crumbling, and the judicial system is now going to be taken over by the mainland. So the Hong Kong as we know it is pretty much over. Yeah.
I saw it on social media. I have a friend who actually lives in Hong Kong, and he was posting a lot about it. But I think from like I mean, I'm based out of Canada. A lot of the stuff I was seeing, it wasn't like very clear to me. You know what I mean? It wasn't clear, and I don't think it was publicized enough. Yeah, there's a lot going on in like the U.S. and Canada right now in North America, but I think that there needs to be light on that as well, because yeah, that's awful. That is awful, man.
A lot of people are afraid of this because it's of course it's awful what's happening in Hong Kong, and I love Hong Kong. It's a beautiful, beautiful society, people. But this is a lot of people see this as a stepping stone for the communist government. You know, first it's going to be Hong Kong. Well, no, first it was the South China Sea, the Jeju Islands, then Hong Kong, and then Taiwan, and then God knows what else. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
they're already starting to affect the liberties of the U.S. with the control they have over the media with
Yeah.
the NBA. People don't want to upset the big dog with the money.
Exactly. So, what's the punk scene like in Shanghai? That's where you're from. Like that's where you are right now is Shanghai, right? What's the
Correct.
punk scene like out there?
Right now, it probably seems pretty good to the rest of the world because I mean we're able to have shows. You know,
Yeah.
we're Round Eye is sort of on a tour right now. It's touring in China. You only do it every weekend because you don't. There's not really any place to play on a Monday or Tuesday. It
Mhm.
just doesn't work that way. But yeah, I mean, right now everything's active. People are going to shows. You know, it's like normal, and they're packed shows. Nobody's wearing a mask. They have QR code and temperature checks at the doorway.
Wow.
And I've been travel freely throughout the country, throughout most of the country. You know, Xinjiang, Tibet aside. But in that regard, it's great right now. It's fantastic. Uh, in terms of punk rock and rock and roll, that's like that's the minority music here. It's the
Mhm.
big genre, post rock and post punk, and indie and stuff like that, hip hop.
Yep.
But in terms of punk rock, it's kind of small and fractured throughout the entire country. I mean, Shanghai is a city of 24 million people, and we have around 5 venues and less than 15 punk bands. Right?
Wow.
So it's very small.
But I'm sure it's extremely close knit.
Yeah, and like a lot of these bands, the bands, especially with punk rock, with when they sing of a rebellious nature or anything like that, it tends to be a little vague. You know,
Yeah.
can't exactly just come right out and say, fuck Xi Jinping. But
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah. I was gonna say like it's in a place like that right now. I'm sure like you guys being very political and very outspoken about it. I'm sure the government's probably not big Round Eye fans. I mean, I'd like to say they are, but it sounds like there's a lot of like, you know,
No, yeah, they probably are. I mean, we've had a couple tours banned in the past and shut down, um, and we've had our occasional run-in with the Ministry of Culture, but in the end, we are a band of foreigners, and our platform is relatively small to say a band like SMZB or any of the major pop acts out here. So if they
yeah.
were to say something, they'd probably go in jail. When we released this, we knew that there was a threat of that, there was a risk,
Mhm.
but we felt we had to say it and just roll the dice. And so far, nobody's been fucked with.
That's punk as hell, man. I love it. I love it. So,
Probably a very different thing too if we sang the entire record in Mandarin.
yeah, probably.
That probably make a big difference.
So, Chachi, what's your favorite show you've ever played? I mean, you've played all over the world. I mean, obviously, you played in the US, you played in Canada. We spoke before this interview about Berlin. You've done quite a few shows around the world. So, what's your favorite show that you have been a part of?
Oh man, there's a lot. um, some that come to mind right away on the Monster Vision tour. That was 2017. It was like a 70-day tour of Europe, like with consecutive shows. And I remember having a great time in Ukraine, in Budapest. London's always great. I don't know. There's a lot of really great ones. Jutland, Denmark. Uh, I don't know, man. It's broad. There's so many.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that.
be what is the worst show we've ever played.
All right.
And I think Kortrijk, Belgium, that was the worst gig we've ever played. And it wasn't because of the people or the promoters. It was because of us. We just downright sucked. We didn't have our drum set was collapsing. We had to use an upside down stool as a snare throne, you know, and our drummer didn't know the songs. It was a fucking complete mess. That drummer broke down crying at the end of the set.
You rose above it though, man. You rose above it.
Yeah, that was tough. Jeez.
So your this album was released on Vinny from Less Than Jake's label. How is it working with him? Because I mean, I'm a big Less Than Jake fan personally. How is that? How is it working with him?
I mean, we haven't met him directly yet. I met him a
Oh.
couple times by myself with Libyan back when I lived in Florida. So Less Than Jake is like a household name in Florida, right?
Yeah.
But the reason we got connected was because of a band called Hans Gruber and the Diehards out of Texas, and they're on paper. They know him, and we were shopping around for places to release our music because we can't release our music in mainland China. It's just not possible. They don't touch our nature with a 20-foot pole. And Vinny caught wind of our videos, our music videos, and he liked what he saw. To hear more, and then things started developing with Bill and Mike Watt, and then he was on board after that. And the physical release of the album will come out in October. COVID fucked all that shit up for us. So yeah, Vinny's been great. He's fantastic.
Yeah, man. He's a legend. That's for sure. He's a legend. So, being that you're in Shanghai, and I mean, I'm definitely, as the world starts to get back to normal, I'm looking at like going out there. I want to try. I want to check out China, and I got a buddy in Japan, so I want to go out there and make that trip out there super worth it to go to that part of the world.
Go around, crash in my place.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate that. Thank you, bro. So what's a dish that someone should have when they visit Shanghai? What's the thing that you have to have?
Well, Shanghainese cuisine, I'm not really a fan of. It's a little too sweet for me. And really creamy based, you know. What I usually eat out here is either dongbei cai, which is northeastern food, and it's like the typical, the dumplings, the sweet and sour chicken or whatever it's called. The close general chicken. Those chicken is a bolbao roll. It's like a sweet, lightly fried pork. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The breakfast jambing, which is like a handheld omelet.
Yeah.
The wonderful thing about Chinese food is that there's so much variety. There's so many different cultures and provinces. There's Tibetan food, the Uyghur Muslim food, the Dongbei food, right? Shanghai food, Beijing hot pot. The list goes on and on. Cantonese. It's great. Sichuan spicy. I mean, God, dude, I could spend like a good 72 hours just showing you food. You know what I mean? Just straight up.
That's one thing I love about living in Toronto is like we have Chinatown, we have Little Tibet, like there's little spots to go to, but I feel like it's never going to be as authentic as getting it in that home country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that. When we were in LA just recently, I have a friend of mine here in Shanghai who's going to school in LA. He's a Shanghai, where's he from? Hefei? No. Hunanese. And he showed me a restaurant in LA that was, if I was blindfolded, I would have thought it was in China. It was beautiful.
Really?
But if there was one food to show you in Shanghai, xiaolongbao.
Okay.
It's soup-filled dumplings. So that's like their main thing.
That's really interesting, actually. I can't even imagine. Well,
And it's dirt cheap.
yeah, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. I'm going to wrap it up. I know you got a busy day ahead of you. It is like 10 a.m. in when we are recording this podcast. It's like 10.
Yeah, I'm in my music class now.
There you go. There you go. So I hope you have yourself a good rest of your day, man. And thank you for coming on the podcast, brother.
Thank you very much, man. I hope to see you soon.
Take care,
And,
Chachy.
wear your mask, everybody.
Oh, real quick. I need to do this. I will figure out a way to send you one of these, Chachy. But this is the first episode where we got a little sponsor. So we got
Great.
Hot Stuff Hot Sauce. So they are from my across the street from me. They have there's a pizza place, and one of the guys there has his hot sauce company. So he sent me over a hot sauce. So definitely check this out, guys. This is the official hot sauce of the Backstage with Kennedy podcast. Now, Hot Stuff Hot Sauce, right there.
Send me a bottle of that. I would love that.
Yeah, man. All right. You take care, bro. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.